Hello and welcome to NerdVsWorld episode 63, Batnerd versus Supernerd, Nerds of Justice.
Woo!
I'm Brendan.
I'm Spindles.
And I'm Emma.
And on today's show, we will be bringing you our roundup of the Sci Fi Weekender, a review of Batman vs Superman, 10 Cloverfield Lane, and Daredevil Season 2.
And potentially a little bit about Colony, because I've enjoyed Colony.
Possibly. And also an Indiegogo you should be following.
Yes. Only because
I
they
know what
followed
you're
you.
talking about.
We'll get onto that later.
Where should we start? Should we start with the good stuff or the Batman vs Superman review?
Let's go with the reviews. Let's get this out of the way. Because we've been going on about this film since we first heard about the whole Batfleck announcement. And
Yes, we have. Okay. So, anyone who has seen the NerdVsWorld Twitter or Facebook page will know that I wasn't a huge fan of this film. I think it fails on nearly every single level. The plot is absolute nonsense. You could remove Lex Luthor from this film and it would, one, vastly improve the movie, and two, he wouldn't be missed.
yeah, no, he adds absolutely no contributing factor to the plot whatsoever.
It is almost like someone wrote a script for the Joker, realised they couldn't get the Joker, and forgot... Oh, that's my phone. That's embarrassing. And forgot to remove the Joker's script from the movie. And Jesse Eisenberg plays Lex Luthor as a very cheap knockoff of Heath Ledger's Joker.
He's also essentially replaying his bit from The Social Network.
Yeah. But it was the Batman thing that I was going with in the Joker. Because the crazy rambling monologues that he does. It's slightly different to The Social Network, I think.
Yeah, slightly, but it's what that Mark Zuckerberg character would be in about another 10 years' time.
True.
Lex isn't a crazy person. He's not ever portrayed like that. Is it completely different?
Yeah. Lex is pretty smart.
He's a businessman.
He's a businessman.
Yeah.
He does what he does, and he just doesn't let morals get in the way of it. He's not a madman.
No, he's not insane like this guy is. So yeah, he ruined the film for me, along with a combination of other things. One, Henry Cavill is a charisma vacuum. And the single mopiest Superman I've ever seen.
That's fair.
The pacing was all over the place. The scenes jarred together without any logical narrative flow. The pacing, that final confrontation, everything was building to that, and it was a massive anticlimax by comparison. Both the Batman versus Superman fight and the Doomsday fight. We pretty much called it back in December on the show.
Yeah.
What the plot points would be and why the Justice League would be formed. And they cheapened that by doing that very last shot of the dirt moving on the lid of the coffin.
Yeah.
As you fade out. It's just really, guys? You either kill him and form the Justice League and then wait for the next movie for him to come back.
Yeah.
You let the audience leave with some sense the story has been completed.
There was no need to tease the fact that Superman will come back to life. Everyone knows Superman will come back to life. There's no point showing it. But then again, there's also no point showing why Bruce Wayne becomes Batman. But yet again, we got the parents dying.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't go down crime alley, did they?
Yeah,
did.
not yet another origin story for Batman, which we don't need. And also, Thomas Wayne, kind of a dick. Your kids just watched both his parents get gunned down, and with your last breath, you're going to ignore him and just say Martha?
I guess my biggest thing was that Zack Snyder seems to have a thing about killing off what's-his-face in the opening scene of a movie these days.
What, Jimmy Olsen?
No, not Jimmy Olsen. The guy who was playing Thomas Wayne in this, the chameleon from...
The comedian, was it?
Comedian, yeah.
Oh,
It was him.
I completely didn't even
Yeah,
notice that. I think my eyes were rolling back in my head with so much boredom already. That I just
and I've
didn't-
completely...
It's Negan from
from Walking Dead. I've completely forgotten the actor's name. Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Zack Snyder seems to have a thing for killing him off in the opening beat of any movie these days.
Yeah.
So, yes.
And it was pointed out to me that he killed Jimmy Olsen off as well without any sort of pomp and circumstance. And like, Lois Lane returns to the Daily Planet and like, where's Jimmy? Oh, he's dead. No, nothing.
Well, the reason why they had Jeffrey Dean Morgan mouth Martha is for the paper-thin excuse why Batman doesn't kill Superman.
Yes.
Because they have the same mum's name.
Yeah. Which everyone knows.
Everyone knew that anyway, but again, the sheer ridiculousness of it in the plot, where Batman is about to stab the fuck out of Superman, and Superman goes, "Save Martha," instead of "Save my mum."
Yeah.
You know, which is what he probably would have said in those circumstances, because why would you say "Save Martha"?
He's like, who's Martha?
Yeah.
What does that name mean to you?
Yeah, okay, but that's the reason he's not going to kill him, is it? Yeah.
But I gave you a challenge after Brendan's review to go and watch that
I've
film
not finished wrecking it
No,
yet.
he did. Yeah.
and what were some positives.
We're nowhere near
We're nowhere
done
near
trashing
done
it.
tracking it.
No, nowhere near.
I've been getting people say, but that's about humanizing Superman in Batman's eyes, and I get that. I get that that's what it does, but the way Zack Snyder chooses Martha as that key thing is just utterly hackneyed and crowbarred.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It is.
And as I say, if it's about saying, yes, Superman has a mum too, in which case he would have said, "Save my mum," and Batman would have gone, "What, you have a mum?"
Yeah.
And then maybe that would have been a conversation. But to go, "Martha!"
To play on an in-joke that every comic book fan has known for years,
Yeah.
for the sake of a plot point, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Almost like a jar of piss.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Another plot point.
Peach tea.
Peach tea. Grammy's peach tea. No, it gets me so frustrated. And people are saying, like, I've had people react to the review and say, yep, agree, and people say, a bit harsh. And maybe my review was a bit harsh. But some people have been like, you can't call yourself a comic book fan if you don't like this film. Which I found to be particularly odd.
I would disagree with that entirely.
Yeah.
You can watch this film and have no notion about comic books whatsoever and vaguely enjoy it.
Yeah. If you like this film, fair enough, you like this film. When I review movies, I don't go in with any sort of preconceived bias. I wanted to like this film, in fact, really wanted to like this film, because I was fairly sure it would be fashionable to hate this movie, and I've never been accused of being fashionable. So I really wanted to rail against the critics and love this movie. But as a film, I didn't. It is filled with fan service, which is great, but it doesn't do it subtly. The Marvel films have a way of telling a story first and feeding things out to the fans. Whereas with this, DC and Snyder have focused so much on trying to produce a massive spectacle that can compete with Marvel, they forgot to make a movie.
Yeah, totally. And I think, as I've said about it, it's the only reason to go and watch this film is if you have any interest in watching any other DC movies over the next 10 years, to give you an idea as to why they're happening.
Yeah.
Because that's what this is. This is a bridge between what was a standalone superhero movie to go, hey, look, there are other superheroes in the universe, let's see what they're up to.
Was that a positive?
Well, no, not really, no. The whole way that they introduce the rest of the Justice League is so horribly ham-fisted, it's not even funny. He basically downloads the whole of Lex Luthor's operating system, boots it up, finds a folder that's, hello, we're the Justice League. And it's got the Wonder Woman logo, the Flash logo. It's literally just a bunch of logos, and he clicks on them, and then you get a trailer for who they are.
Yeah. So you see a little bit of Cyborg with some New Gods tech in there. That's the plot hole. We'll come to the New Gods in a second. That's the big plot hole. And yeah, then there's a little brief snippet of Aquaman, a snippet of the Flash. Flash makes 2 appearances because he comes back in another one of these Darkseid dream sequences.
He's not the Flash from the TV show.
No,
He's
it's
a
all
different
completely different.
Flash.
No.
Yeah. But was that the Flash that turned up in that Batman dream sequence?
I think it's just after the dream sequence, because there's the obvious Darkseid dream sequence, which then ends with a future Flash coming out of the screen, which I think is separate to the hallucination. I think that's actually him visiting him.
Right.
And then Bruce Wayne wakes up.
Because there was a lot of ridiculous... Are they hallucinations? Are they dreams? Are they actually happening? There was a lot of disjointed things going on.
Well, that was the problem with the entire movie.
Yeah.
The entire movie was disjointed. Nothing worked logically. And I will accept that with a comic book film, logic can sometimes be thrown out the window, but with a movie, it can't. And it has to work in a film as it's in its own right first, then as a comic book adaptation second. And it didn't. But yes, the New Gods and the Darkseid stuff, it was just too crowded. They tried to do too much. The irony being, there's been a deleted scene released this week called Communion, which happens after the Doomsday fight, where they take the Kryptonian ship and they find Lex Luthor there. And Steppenwolf, one of Darkseid's lieutenants, is there. And that makes sense then, because that then informs why Lex Luthor knows
That something else
that
is
something's
coming.
coming. Because that's the biggest thing. He comes to the end and he's talking about the bell's been unrung. The bell's been rung, it can't be unrung. Something is coming. It's like, at no point in this film have you had any information given to you about the New Gods. Or this is going.
You only assume that he's had something to do with that, with the time he spent inside the Kryptonian ship making Doomsday in the first place.
Yeah. You can make that assumption, but nothing's been sort of outright said. So the movie was 2.5 hours already. It could have been 2.5 hours and 30 seconds and have this cutscene actually in the film. And it would have made a lot more sense. It would have worked better as a film for having that cutscene. But, there's still a 3-hour cut of this movie to come that's rated R.
I was quite surprised about how long it was, actually.
Yeah. We knew it had to be long. If they wanted to use it to set up the Justice League, it had to be a fairly lengthy movie. But they could have split that into 3 more evenly timed sections.
Because I think I didn't know how long it was going to be, so I accidentally rang Simon because I thought he'd be out. And then he ended up texting me back going, it's going to finish any minute. So I looked online and went, 2.5 hours? No, love, we've got another 20 minutes left yet.
That's the point when you start going, oh, fuck no.
Really?
It bored me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fairly dull. There were a lot of it that I could have just completely done without.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that people were most dreading in some ways was Ben Affleck being in it, but that wasn't your impression at all.
I've got to be honest. I would watch the hell out of a Ben Affleck Batman movie.
Me too. I've said exactly the same thing. He was awesome.
Yep.
He was the
best,
only good thing about that film.
The best Bruce Wayne we've had since Keaton, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought he was fantastic.
He's probably the only good thing I can take from that movie.
Yeah. I would agree entirely.
It needs more Batman stuff.
It did. It needed.
It needed Lex Luthor gone, because Bruce Wayne has got the resources to track down and weaponize the kryptonite without having to steal it from Lex Luthor.
Yeah, absolutely.
They could have got rid of Lex Luthor entirely. He doesn't need to be there for any of it.
Yeah. Well, other than who would have created Doomsday?
Did we need to have Doomsday this soon?
I don't believe we did need to have it.
No.
But Lex has always been a fan favourite, so they probably thought it would be a good thing.
Well, yes, but then again, so was the rest of the Justice League, which is why they've just crowbarred too much stuff into this film.
Yeah.
So
Basically,
they just didn't cover as much ground.
Yeah, we've got plot lines from Death of Superman, Dark Knight Returns, Infinite Crisis. Like, everything's just been mashed together. Yeah. We didn't need Doomsday. Like, if they're going to go with Darkseid, they could have just had his visions and Steppenwolf as the main bad guy. Even have Steppenwolf create Doomsday. I guess there's probably some comic book fans out there saying, why would Steppenwolf do that? And that would be something for the filmmakers to answer, because
Well, yeah.
there probably isn't much reason why he would, because they tend to come along after Doomsday, rather than Graham.
Yeah, but that was basically the only thing that Lex Luthor did in the movie.
Yeah, was that, and anyone could have done it.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman was okay.
I thought she was pretty good.
It's a shame they kept her appearance to a cameo,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a shame that she played both the Madonna and the whore.
Mm.
You know, she fit two archetypes. Basically, she was the sultry seductress who can be a master thief, and then she was the kick-ass woman at the end.
Yeah.
Entirely two-dimensional, but given that she was only in it for about 10 minutes altogether,
Hardly unsurprising.
yeah, not surprising. Yeah. I'm struggling to think of anything else good to say about it. I mean,
Positives, dear?
Well, the main thing for me was the Ben Affleck performance. I thought was fantastic. I kind of liked their take on Alfred. Jeremy Irons, I thought was kind of cool.
yeah, but he disappears for a massive
He
chunk of the
did
movie without
completely
any
disappear.
reason.
But I liked how he was more involved in
Yeah.
the kind of crime fighting aspect instead of just, going, oh, Master Bruce, you
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing this. Taking over as a drone pilot and stuff was pretty kick-ass.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I was intrigued to find out what had happened to Wayne Manor and why he was living in a weird outbuilding. Because that wasn't explained, but Wayne Manor was in complete ruins.
It's true. Yeah.
And it gives you no explanation as to why. And he's living in some weird glass building down by a river.
Yeah, that's true.
There is no explanation of that whatsoever. So I'll be
Well,
interested to
this
know what the
stuff
rationale is behind that.
Well, this stuff not be a bit obvious in a glass building. Like the Batmobile, it's a bit like...
Well, that's all still in the Batcave.
Actually, the Batcave-
Batcave is fine.
Batcave was awesome.
Yeah.
The entrance to the Batcave was amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, because there was a ramp inside a lake.
So he's got an entire Batcave, but yet he's living in a greenhouse out
Yeah,
back.
essentially, yeah.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, it made no sense to me at all. I was like, well, what the hell's wrong with Wayne Manor?
Welcome to this movie.
Yeah, you see some brief shots inside of it of it all being like torn down and stuff, and a couple of outside shots of it being in ruins. But that's pretty much it. And then, I kind of liked the... I liked the hook for how they brought Batman into it. It was nice that they kind of picked up on a lot of our arguments as to what was wrong with Man of Steel and ran with it as a plot line. But then again, we knew they were going to do that from pretty early on.
Yeah. And then, but they make things so painfully obvious that they're addressing that issue as well. Later on, they're like, "Don't worry, we've made sure it's abandoned. Don't worry, no one's there. It's after hours." Like, when the fights are happening later on, there's no danger of collateral damage, and they're making sure they're signposting how vacant everything is.
So much so, but then the biggest problem with that is that, yes, the battle goes up into space and they nuke them. And, like, that's not going to have any collateral damage on the entire fucking planet. Detonating a nuclear device in orbit.
Yeah. And what would happen... What happens in Dark Knight Returns is that the fallout blocks out the sun. Without access to the sun's powers, Superman loses his.
Yeah.
And then Batman kills him.
Yeah. So, yeah, much as they were saying, about collateral damage being a bad thing, then they just push it a step further and detonate a nuke.
Yeah. Just to get that shot of a withered Henry Cavill suddenly coming back to life.
Yes. Zombie Cavill.
Yeah.
Floating in orbit.
But
So
it was...
I like the bat tech. I like that. That was good. The new Batmobile was awesome. The Batwing was pretty awesome. I liked the idea of him branding people. That was kind of cool. But then the whole sequence of him just shooting the fuck out of people kind of literally it took a complete step away from the fact that Batman doesn't kill people.
But he does, and he has, and he's used guns quite a bit. So I wasn't really too bothered with Batman using guns.
But it was that whole sequence just made no sense to me whatsoever.
But that was in one of his hallucinations. Well, in one of the visions, wasn't
Yeah.
it? So we don't know what Batman he's become by that point.
It's a trench coat wearing machine gun toting Batman, which, yeah.
But I've got no issue with his gun use.
It just surprised
canon,
me, I think. because it's something they tend to steer clear of in Batman films.
Yeah, well, I think they're using different sources for this, so I'm not altogether bothered by that, because that was one of the best parts of the film was Batman. I was happy with with the interpretation they have of him.
Yeah.
For that.
My favourite bit after the film is definitely the sad Affleck post that somebody put up after your review, which he just sits and mournfully looks off.
Yeah, I feel bad for him. I
Does
do.
he put in
I
a
genuinely
stonking
feel bad for him
performance?
because, like, without him, that film would have been unwatchable.
Yeah, but that's the strongest thing to come out of it, and is what gives me hope that, you know, we might get a decent Batman film out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not writing off the rest of the franchise based on this. Like,
I still think Suicide Squad's going to be interesting.
I have my reservations
Well, I
about
have my
that.
reservations because it's the one film they should turn R-rated, and they haven't.
Yeah, but they are using.
No.
No, it's not. But they're using different directors for the different franchise movies, and like, that gives me hope. I just don't think Zack Snyder handled this particularly well. I don't think he's handled a film well for a while.
No. No, not since Watchmen, I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah, that'd been my last one for him
Yeah.
too. But there you go, folks. I mean, like, if you're a diehard fan, you'll find something in it that you'll like. There are Easter eggs to be found in there, but we can't give you a rating based on the Easter eggs.
Indeed.
So-
But I will say that my biggest positive coming out of it is the fact that next year we're going to get potentially the best Batman film ever.
Oh, the
Lego
movie.
Batman, the
Yeah.
movie. Dear God, that looks amazing.
It does. It does.
That is going to be the best Batman film ever.
Yeah, it's a fair shout. Okay. So it's a solid 3.5, 4 out of 10 for me.
I'd probably bump it to 5 because I didn't hate it.
Okay.
And I thought I would hate it.
I'd sooner watch that again than Prometheus. I know I said something else on my review, but actually, Prometheus is still a worse film than that.
I think if I was to do it, probably a good way of watching it would be to have a good kind of 4 or 5 hours free, cut out the last 45 minutes of Man of Steel and cut straight to the beginning where Batman turns up and the fight's happening, intercut the two together and make it one film.
Fair.
And that way you can cut out a load of the extraneous shit and make a decent film out of the two of them put together.
You never know, the 3-hour-long one might make sense.
No.
No.
There's stuff, they need to lose stuff rather than that stuff. Okay, so that's the one review. I also went to see 10 Cloverfield Lane, which I am pleased to report is a wonderfully shot, not shaky cammed piece of genius. It's a great, great film. John Goodman is creepy as fuck. And we need to find a way of getting him into a movie where he can show his chops like this closer to Oscar season. We need to find a way of getting this man an Oscar nomination at least, because his performance as this creepy survivalist was incredible.
I thought it was great in Red State.
Yeah, I thought it was as well. to be fair. One of the best things about that film.
Yeah,
was-
absolutely.
So the plot follows this woman who crashes off the road when she's on the way from leaving her boyfriend, like just running away from him. And she wakes up handcuffed to a radiator in a room in a bunker run by John Goodman, who informs her that the world has ended. And he doesn't know what it is, whether it's the Soviets or an alien invasion or a chemical attack or what, he's not sure, but he just knows that everything is finished and he's rescued her. And he seems very nice, very jovial, and as the film plays out, we start learning more and more about his backstory, his fixations on certain aspects of his life in the bunker, and on her and his other guest, and it's really well done. It's really well put together. The tension mounts throughout. If it has a problem, the problem is a typical Abrams-esque problem in that the build is wonderful, but then he has to go and do a reveal. And the last 10 minutes of the film are a bit silly in a way that kind of... It's kind of jarringly opposite the rest of the tone. Tonally to that point, it's this gripping psychological thriller. We don't know who's telling the truth, what the real situation is, who's good, who's bad, what people's motivations are. It's all just tense and building, and then we find out what's going on.
Is it like Sign silly, The Village silly?
No.
Less
It's
silly
not.
than
It's
that.
not. It's not Shyamalan.
It's not Shyamalan.
It's not Shyamalan silly. It's just Abrams silly. He didn't direct it. He was just part of the producers for it.
Well, but that's the thing, is it started out life as a completely different film.
Yeah.
With a completely different
It's-
title.
There was meant to be no connection to Cloverfield.
Yeah.
But I can't give the ending away.
No, indeed. But
I'm not going
I guess from what I've read about it, it's that it was originally a movie. It was called The Cellar or something. I can't remember the exact name, but I read it in Empire the other day. And it was pretty much all completely done, but it hadn't had a release at all. And then I think J.J. Abrams came on board, and they reshot a few bits and bobs, did some pickup shots, added some extra stuff into it, and recut it, and then called it 10 Cloverfield Lane instead.
Yeah.
So it was originally a completely different movie. So chances are that 10-minute silliness at the end is due to the recutting and the reshooting.
Possibly.
But that gives me a lot more confidence to go and see it, though, because I wasn't massively keen on Cloverfield. So,
No, it was rubbish.
That makes me want to actually watch it.
There's a lot of false turns, and things get confirmed. Various things get confirmed during the films. We know that there's elements of truth to what he's saying. We just don't know the extent of what's actually happened. But there's a pivotal scene for me that speaks to Goodman's character and his acting in this film. They're playing a word game where they have to say words that will. It's kind of like a charades type of affair. And the young man who's down in the bunker with them has to try and get him to guess Little Women as the title of a book. And he keeps pointing to Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character, saying, she's one. And Goodman's like, a girl? Like, no, not a girl, she's older. And just going at him, and he cannot picture her as anything other than a girl. The only alternative word he has for it is princess. And it's just the way, very subtly through that scene and the ones just before and after it, we start getting more and more insight into what Goodman's character is kind of all about.
Okay.
But yeah, it's really, really well done. It's very subtle. It's the exact opposite to Snyder's direction. Like, there's nuance in this movie. And I couldn't picture her, who she was. I recognised the face, but I couldn't place it straight away. But there's one scene which it was exactly like Ramona from Scott Pilgrim. I was like, that's who she is. Knew I recognised it.
Yeah. I recognise the name, Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah, Ramona Flowers from Scott Pilgrim. But yeah, that one is well worth a watch.
Cool. Give it a shot.
Silly ending and all.
Daredevil?
Daredevil.
Daredevil Season 2.
Okay.
Was it everything we thought it was going to be?
More or less.
Hell yes, it was.
Yeah. It was pretty damn good. I agree with most people's complaints about this series, with the 1 weak link being Elektra.
Potentially. I think my other major complaint with it is once you start having waves of ninjas, you get a bit bored.
Or with the hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fight sequences with wave after wave of ninjas, I just eventually stopped caring.
Well, to me, it felt like 3 different Daredevil movies.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah,
tied
it
in
was.
together.
Yeah. There was no real overarching consistent plot. It's basically
Well,
turn
the
up.
only arcing consistent plot is Matt Murdock continually fucks everything
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
But you go through that Punisher plotline, and to the point where he's happy, where you know that everything's going to go to shit from there on. And, you know, I knew that Elektra was going to be in it. So I was like, right, here it is. He says he's happy. He's going to go upstairs. Oh, look.
There she is, yeah. It's like,
And then you head off on a bit of a plot like that. And, you know, it's very... There's different segments to it rather than an overarching series like the first one.
yeah. And the middle 4 episodes with the Elektra stuff and the flashbacks did kind of suck the momentum out of the series.
Yeah.
But, fortunately, Frank Castle and the Punisher more than made up for it.
Yeah.
The Punisher stuff was great. And John Bernthal brought something new to the portrayal of Frank Castle.
Yeah, I thought he was excellent.
And exactly what we thought he would be as well. We thought he'd be an ideological clash rather than an actual straight-up villain.
Yeah.
It comes to something when, you know, you're going through the series and then Kingpin turns up and I was really happy. Because we got really attached to Kingpin in the first series.
I was
we
very
were sort
glad
of
to
like
see him
emotionally attached to him. And then it's like, oh, he's back. Oh, that's good.
back and still pulling the strings
Yeah.
and still brutal. And then that prison corridor fight sequence,
Yeah, that was excellent.
yeah, it was really, really well
Though,
done.
I mean, there were some standout, really good fight
Episode
sequences again.
2.
Episode 3,
Episode 3.
the corridor one-shot fight sequence again, up and down the stairway.
Yeah.
That was, again, amazing. But it was just later on, just the waves of ninjas just got a bit too much.
Yeah.
And it just lost its impact.
Oh, more ninjas.
Yeah.
And then she turned into a MacGuffin.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that's so
Yeah.
frustrating about Elektra as her portrayal in season 2. She didn't have a character. You know, she was a plot device.
Yeah.
She had no agency in her own right. She wasn't, you know. No, she just wasn't fleshed out. She was nothing. She was nothing like Elektra. She was a woman with the name. That was it. That was the only thing that she has that connects her to the comics.
T'other Elektra isn't any good either.
Well,
No, yeah, well, no.
less said about that,
Let's
the
not,
better.
yeah. But like, yeah, she had nothing going for her. She was literally a plot device, and eventually turned into the MacGuffin.
But then in the first series, the women were really, really good. You know, you got Kingpin versus his missus. She was almost
Vanessa.
Vanessa,
She
yeah.
was almost like changing the way he was thinking and twisting his views in certain respects. She was a very strong woman character. And then you got to this one, it was like, apart from the nurse, she was quite good. But Elektra was rubbish.
Again, she was criminally underused in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it felt like they were setting the rest of the TV universe up, to be honest. There's all the little Easter eggs and stuff for new people and new characters. Like the Iron Fist connection has been established more now that we have Jerry Hogarth making her appearance and recruiting Foggy. Madame Gao is still knocking around, so we know that's going to be the overarching thing. And Elektra as the Black Sky just feels like that's the second time now, because Black Sky was mentioned in the first Daredevil season, because Stick kills a Black Sky. It kind of feels like that's going to be the big super enemy
Yeah.
that forces the Defenders to come together.
Because there was a lot of unanswered stuff, like the massive fuck-off hole
Yeah, well, I put up...
being a gaping plot hole.
Yeah, were they digging for the Beast?
Yeah.
Well, that's what the Hand and the Trace have been fighting over. So was that... But yeah.
There was some lovely Jessica Jones references.
Well, she even gets name dropped.
Yeah, she does
Just
indeed.
She gets name dropped straight up. I've been loving going over the sites that bring up Easter eggs and stuff for this, because it's making me wonder, what do you consider an Easter egg and what is just a straight reference?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
so
like-
mentioning Jessica Jones.
Yeah, that's not an Easter egg.
No.
Um,
It's a flat-out reference.
and someone saying, and his weapon maker Mervyn is the Gladiator. It's like, well, again, not an Easter egg. It's a reference, and also you put that as an Easter egg for your season 1 review as well.
Yeah.
That's, at what point does naming a character become an Easter egg? I can accept Max the dog as
Yes.
a sly reference to the Punisher's animal companions, But yeah, like saying Jessica Jones is an Easter egg. No, not an Easter egg.
No.
Oh, yeah.
There were more for Deadpool that were more appropriate. I think there were actually more subtle references in Deadpool.
And
than there
Deadpool,
were
yeah, like
in
the
that.
coffee cups and the road signs and stuff. But yeah, when you have a character and you just name that character,
That's not an issue.
some Easter eggs were more subtle, like the whole Frank Castle Daredevil thing on the roof where he's chained up and he's making that decision. That's kind of one giant Easter egg because it's ripped straight from the comic.
It is shot for shot out of the comic.
You know, so that's kind of like, oh my god, this is where they got that from. That's great. And it was great.
It was. Yeah, that was very, very good.
But I'm really enjoying these Marvel TV series.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the next one. It's going to be fantastic. We keep doing them in a day, don't we?
Yeah, I got back to Oxford 2:30, 3 o'clock on the Sunday morning after leaving the Sci Fi Weekender, and then I had work for 12 hours. So I watched most of Daredevil at work. Not gonna lie. And it was good. Both seasons have been very, very good, but both seasons could have been worse had it not been for a certain character. I think if the first season didn't have Vincent D'Onofrio's excellent performance as Wilson Fisk, it wouldn't have worked quite so well.
Yeah.
And I think if Frank Castle and the Punisher hadn't been so well done by Bernthal in this series, it wouldn't have worked quite so well.
Yeah, I would agree.
I still think there are weaknesses in the pacing and the plotting, but they're being papered over by some really, really outstanding performances.
It was definitely the characterisation of Fisk in the first season and the fact that you did feel for him.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't just you're an outright baddie and you're going to kill
sympathetic
things.
villain.
He was very sympathetic.
Yeah.
He was wonderful,
Yeah.
which is why I like seeing him again.
And we'll see him in season 3.
Yep.
Because he's pretty much outright said in that
He
scene,
said he will be back and he will tear them to bits.
which is going to be the Born Again
Yeah.
plotline, especially now that that Matt Murdock has told, was it Karen?
Yeah.
Who he is.
Yeah. And Fisk has worked out who he is.
Yeah, Fisk has definitely worked that out
Yeah.
because we see him asking for all the.
From Matt Murdock's files. Yeah. No, he's definitely worked out who he is.
But that's part of Kingpin's abilities. Yeah. He's a master tactician like that. Yeah. He can work it all out.
Yeah.
He's one of the smartest Marvel villains that there are.
Yeah. Indeed. Okay, well,
cool.
I guess the coming back from Sci Fi Weekend links us nicely into it.
Yeah, I'm kind of pissed at myself that I got the whole daylight saving things wrong, because I could have stayed like an hour extra and done that
And the
interview.
interview, yeah.
But yeah, shall we start with Thursday night?
Well, yeah, it was an unexpected weekend in many ways, shapes or forms, because we had a lot of stuff lined up that we were due to be doing, and then on Thursday night when we got there, ended up with Garrett Wong being put on the table next to us, so we invited him to join us for dinner, and then proceeded to spend the majority of the weekend hanging out with him, which was very, very odd.
Yeah, and he is a thoroughly lovely guy.
He is indeed, yeah. He had some wonderful stories. He did great panels.
Yes.
His panel was hilarious.
Yeah.
And the impressions, no wonder he lost his voice.
Yeah. So when it finally came around to us recording the podcast with him last thing on the Saturday night, his voice had pretty much gone.
Yeah.
But he was still hilarious. There's a lot of cool stories in there that you haven't heard yet, sir, which you have to hear. It's like particular one that you'll like is him meeting. I've forgotten his name now. The guy who plays Wash.
Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, Alan Tudyk.
Let's not get into forgetting Firefly actors' names.
Why not? Let's start with that, because that's Thursday night.
Thursday night you had a quiz.
No. Thursday night.
Oh, no, Thursday night we didn't do the quiz.
We didn't do the quiz Thursday night.
Friday.
Because
Yeah,
we were going to do it on Thursday night,
Yeah.
but we were talking to Garrett Wong,
Yeah.
misregistration, so we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's such a shame. I was happy missing the quiz. But then Friday night, there was the main Sci-Fi London quiz. And
Which we didn't do.
We couldn't make it.
We couldn't do
we did it. So we got most of Team NerdVsWorld together for it.
Yeah.
And it was pretty good. And we're getting into the second round. The first round was pretty bad for us. We didn't do quite as well as I'd have hoped. And the second round, it was the same format as last year. So question 1 through 10, and each question has a number of answers equal to the question number. So question 8 has 8 answers. And question 8 was, who were the 8 historical figures that Bill and Ted brought back? And I was just like, don't worry, guys, I got this. You know, we sign off our show like with be excellent to each other. This is no worries, we got this nailed. And I nailed it. And question 9 was, who were the 9 cast members in Firefly? Now, if anybody knows me, they know that the one show I ship harder than any other is Firefly.
In fact, so much so that you said you wouldn't share a caravan with our daughter until she watched Firefly.
That's true. So I was like, don't worry, guys, I got this. And I'm writing off the names, and I've got them all down, and I count them up, and I only have 8. And I'm going through the cast and who they play, and I'm like, oh shit, I haven't got the Doctor. Oh, who plays the Doctor? I'm like, no, seriously, who plays the Doctor? I can't remember for the life of me who plays. I'm just having a complete mind blank. I know it's Sean Mayer. I absolutely know that. But at the time, utter mind fart.
Should have brought Megan to it. She would have sorted you out.
So that aside, we put all the scores in, and we type our scores, and we've got 65 points by our reckoning, and joint third was 66. And so it was missing that Sean Mayer question that cost us a competition prize.
So we will now cast our minds back to 9 Worlds last year, where I had a complete mind blank on the Tyrell Corporation, and we lost the podcast awards by by half a point.
See, we are cursed, I think.
I think we just cursed to have brain blanks at certain points.
Yeah, and both in fandoms and
it's
things
stuff that we should know, that we know backwards. Because, I know Blade Runner backwards, all the discrepancies between how many replicants are left at certain points and which bits they overdubbed and stuff like that. Yet come to a question in a quiz and I completely corpse.
Yeah. So, yeah. It was an embarrassing moment for a hardcore Firefly fan. Because I could picture him. I could even see tweets, like, between him and Jules State, because they're massive friends on Twitter, but I just couldn't see a name. It was just so elusive. But we did okay. It was a good showing. We'll just have to come back and do better next year.
So as for the rest of the weekend, on the Saturday, on the Friday, we were very, very busy on the Friday because that was the day that me and Emma were doing all the panels. So we were kind of fitting between each other.
And Starbucks is brilliant this year. They'd completely changed it. So they'd blocked out a lot of the noise from the main void by putting all this panelling in. And they created a wonderful area by the windows in which they put curtains up and they've got mics in there. And it was really a nice area to do interviews in. So I interviewed Peter Newman first, which was Georgia Mann had pulled out 2 days previously, and then Emma Newman, and it was great to get their interaction together as a couple, especially when people were asking things like, would you like to write a book in each other's universe? And they both said absolutely not. Because it's very, very different. But I didn't have much time to look into Peter's work, but that was good. Emma Newman I could have talked to for hours because I know her stuff in quite great depth.
Yeah.
At the same time, Simon was on stage.
I was on the main stage doing the Game of Thrones panel, and then we crossed over with like a 10-minute crossover period.
Yeah.
I went over to Starbucks, Emma went onto the main stage, so I did an interview with Una McCormack around writing for expanded universes in fiction. So mainly she writes in the DS9 universe and the Doctor Who. She does stuff also. She's written Doctor Who audio dramas and novels. So we had a big conversation about that and stuff about Kindle Worlds and the importance of fandom and fan fiction and things like that. Because she started out as a fan fiction writer and then moved on to writing licensed fiction and stuff. So it was interesting to get her take on the whole Kindle Worlds thing. Do you know about that?
There was a panel briefly on that at Nine Worlds last year.
Yeah. So it's about opening up universes to allow people to write licensed fiction. And then, everybody makes money off it, the people who write it and the license holders. Yeah. So that was cool. And then you went onto the main stage and did the Outlander panel.
And again, the main stage was improved. I mean, we had the hand mics instead of the nightmare head mics from last year.
He still had those, because I was talking to the sound guy
about
them.
Really?
He still got the Top Gear headsets.
Oh no, the Top Gear headsets were a wreck.
It was the same sound guy. I love that guy. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's a great sound guy.
Stan, I think is his name.
But the major advantage of this year is that they actually had a stage manager, which they haven't had for previous years. Which they did a proper burst of film before you went on stage.
Yeah, there was actually VT clips before we went on and everything.
And a big announcement before you went on. And that was really good.
Yeah, we got compared on instead of our usual, we just take over the main stage for a couple of hours. So it was kind of nice.
So I had a lot more material last year because I realised that the guys didn't know anything about Outlander just before I went on stage and all my questions got trashed. So
oddly enough, exactly the same thing happened to me.
In a lot of ways, I prefer talking to authors because they know their stuff backwards, whereas actors just turn up and say some lines. So it depends on. I mean, some of the panels were amazing. I mean, Garrett Wong knew everything about Star Trek backwards. Eve Miles is hilarious.
We'll get on to the Saturday
panels in a minute. It all depends on how well somebody knows the material and how much con experience they have.
Yeah.
Indeed, yeah.
The con experience is definitely key.
Yeah. It's about having that patter, and you see people who've been doing it and are professionals at it and have their patter, and they'll just go off because you'll get people telling it's the same stories using exactly the same words, so you know that it's something that they just rattle off. But it's cool. It's still great to hear.
It's part of acting.
Yeah,
you have
totally.
a script, you do it.
Yeah, indeed. Other highlights for Friday. I think that was it pretty much for the day.
Yeah, well, we ended up passing out afterwards with ours. We hadn't eaten anything.
Yeah, why we missed the quiz because we were shattered after doing all the running around and stage work and stuff. So crashed out and then came back for the Imaginarium at night. So a different Imaginarium to normal. So hosted by Professor Elemental.
Less axle grinding. Woohoo!
Angle grinding,
whatever.
Yeah. Well,
fire things. Yeah. One fire thing is enough for me in an evening. I don't need to sit 3 times.
So it was a new program and. Again, a bit hit and miss. It was nice that they just had an opening and a closing dancing number with Area 51 instead of loads of other stuff going on during it.
I think we only have that opinion because we've been there 5 years.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I think newbies love it.
Yeah. But then you had 2 acts. The magic act, which I thought was a bit dull and a bit repetitive, and it was kind of it was close up magic on stage, which is difficult to pull off.
Yeah.
And keep people interested. If you're going to do stuff on stage, it's got to be big, overt illusions, not Kiwis appearing in a cup.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of felt a bit like they were just normal cabaret stage magicians who'd put on top hats and goggles and called it steampunk.
Okay.
So I was a bit let down with that, I think. They did the Jedi Training Academy, which was kind of cool and good fun. I don't know if you'd seen that over the weekend. So they were around over the entire weekend doing Jedi training, where you basically put blindfolds on and he flies around a drone and you have to try and hit it while blindfolded. And they did that on stage with a guy who was dressed and looked exactly like Kylo Ren.
Sweet.
Which was genius. Everybody really wanted him to win, but he didn't.
He had the wrong lightsaber.
He picked the wrong lightsaber. He picked the one that didn't have the cross guard. So he went for the red one, which is fair, but the orange one had the cross guard.
He couldn't see it from his viewpoint.
So that was kind of cool. And then Professor Elemental doing a gig after that, which is always great.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Sweet.
So it was different. I think that they're still trying to strike a balance between too many, too few, too short, too long in terms of acts as part of that. But I think they're getting closer to the mark now.
practical. I think I retired fairly early after the quiz, I think, on the Friday.
So Saturday was mainly panels, I think we went to on Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday was Eve Miles and Kai Owen.
And that was stunning. Absolutely amazing.
I almost died laughing.
Yeah.
Again.
I could sit and watch Eve Miles on stage for hours.
Yeah.
She's just hilarious.
Absolutely wonderful.
And Kai Owen as well is also hilarious. So the pair of them on stage was just amazing.
Yeah, I didn't want that panel to end. I know it was Brian Blessed next, but they could have pushed Brian Blessed back a little bit.
The Brian Blessed, by God. I mean, Professor Elemental did a cracking job. I've never seen anyone contain him as well as he contained him.
Yeah, and
okay,
he did it with a lot of humility and self-deprecation, and he was great. I thought he was fantastic as a host. Yeah. He only prodded him a couple of times about stuff, and it got to the point where Brian Blessed was actually saying, go on, ask a question and stuff. So he was actively engaging. So I thought he did stunningly well.
He didn't get a word in for 20 minutes, but then after that, he managed to control him pretty well.
Yeah, no one gets a word in
indeed.
With Brian Blessed. But to have Brian Blessed turn around to you and say, "You've been handling me rather well," I think is testament to the job that the Professor did.
Indeed.
Yeah.
The last TV interview with him I saw was on This Morning with Philip and Holly, and they couldn't have any control over him whatsoever. And he was still shouting, "Gordon's alive," as they were desperately trying to get into an ad break.
Cantankerous is once again the word I would use. But yeah, so he was fabulous. And then I think we dodged off a bit after that to get ready for the evening do, and then it was supposedly the ladies of Doctor Who panel.
I saw the ladies of Doctor Who. Just you that went off for a nap.
So who was on the ladies of Doctor Who panel?
Well, the Lady Ellis George, and the Lady Eve Miles, and the Lady Kai Owen.
But what wasn't she introduced as Billy Piper?
She was introduced as Billy Piper.
And then Kai Owen came out again.
They did try and make way for Ellis George, because she's 17 and not quite as into the convention thing as them. And in fact, they took over the interviewing for a swathe of it, asking her about hotels and filming and things in Cardiff. But yes, there wasn't much women in Doctor Who.
So it was...
Then after that, it was just a minute.
Just a minute.
Which got completely saved by the Newmans arguing.
Nice. They are great.
Yeah.
It really wouldn't have been as funny if they didn't have a marital spat on the stage. I mean, you've got to have a marital spat on the stage. It just doesn't work otherwise.
That's why we're never on stage at the same time, you see.
Indeed.
Awkward.
So yeah, I mean, I think other things over the weekend. They started the HRH Prog on this year, which again it felt like two very separate events munged together. I went in there very briefly on the Thursday night to see Crazy World of Arthur Brown because Crazy World of Arthur Brown, who wouldn't? But I think next year it's due to be just pure sci-fi again.
Yeah.
Because I think with it being as it was, they'd moved the screening room over into the sports hall, which in the 4 years I've been going, I've never managed to get there. I've never once been in there. Brendan's been in there once, but we don't talk about that. And so the stuff in the spaceport, they had panels going on in there again, and they had a retro games area, which was cracking. When you walk into the retro games area, and the first thing you see is a bunch of people sat around playing GoldenEye on the N64. Yes.
But the stalls were crap again.
Well, once again, the stalls,
It's all the stuff left over from Hard Rock Hell, which just isn't the stuff that we want to buy. I don't need drinking horns and spiky bras.
You lie. Everyone needs drinking horns and spiky bras.
And all Joey, I just don't need that in my life. I want more towards the Forbidden Planet.
I want t-shirts with wolves on them.
No,
everybody needs t-shirts with wolves on them.
I had one of the weirdest experiences of my entire weekend.
The best shop
in the Trader Zone at the Weekender, and it was the lady who makes crocheted beanie hats. I was there looking at them, and we're just chatting. And she's like, "Please, whatever you do, don't look at what I'm crocheting now." So obviously you're gonna look at what she's crocheting, and I look down, and she is sewing a giant cock, 2 balls, and a big old bush of pubes to a green crochet hat, and she is looking more shamefaced about that than anyone I've ever seen look ashamed about anything ever. She said it was a custom order, and that they usually do these custom orders, but normally she doesn't sew the balls on. She gives the balls as a bracelet to the girlfriend of the guy who's bought the hat, which I thought was funny. Later on that weekend, the second weirdest sight was seeing someone wearing that hat playing crazy golf. But yeah, bless her.
She's got some cracking hats, and she was the best stall that was there.
Oh yeah, by a long shot. I got her card somewhere. We'll put her details in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll stick a link to the site.
Crocheted beanie hats.
Yeah, they were. Megan bought one. She bought a Deadpool one.
Yeah.
And then wore it all weekend.
Yes.
Even when she was in her Dean crossplay, she still wore the Deadpool beanie.
That's Deadpool breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, absolutely. So other stuff. As per usual, the level of cosplay was insanely good.
Oh my word!
There were some awesome ones. It was nice to see someone I'd seen before, like the Warhammer 40k Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
And a couple of others I'd seen at MCM.
And then there was the Necros Overlord from Warhammer 40k.
Yeah.
That was really, really well done.
So there was a lot of awesome cosplay, and I'm gutted that we didn't see the cosplay final, but happy that we were doing what we were doing.
Artifacts and Tabitha Lyon were there, so I think the cosplay standard had been raised slightly.
I thought it was nice that they did a lot of workshops as well.
Yeah.
Because I know some of our guys went to the workshops on that. And it's very similar to making LARP weaponry, you know.
Yeah, well, she does Twitch streams with that as well.
Yeah.
So she'll Twitch stream herself playing Hearthstone, but also prop making from the workshop.
So yeah, that was kind of cool.
So if you were going into next year making it fully Sci-Fi Weekend, how would you guarantee that you sold out 6,000 caravans?
Well, I think they need some bigger headline guests that haven't been there before. I think, they need to dispense with minor characters from shows who haven't been on the shows in a while, and get some really big draws in, someone from Supernatural, someone from Heroes, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Someone from something big and current, I think, is a massive draw.
I think if they did that, then it'd sell itself. I mean,
Yeah.
the Asylum, which Silent 16 and 17 that go on this year, which have Supernatural people, they sell out 6 months in advance.
Yeah.
Because they know that they're going to get big names, whereas you're never quite sure if somebody's going to turn up to the Sci-Fi Weekend or even who people are necessarily when they're representing a big show.
Yeah.
Well, they've got a Star Trek connection now. They should start plodding that along.
Yes,
I
definitely.
mean, because we've had Chase Masterson, we've had Renee Aubergenois, and now we've had Garrett Wang.
Yeah.
Parrish is very funny.
Robert Duncan McNeil, he's great.
Very
And
we had thingy. I keep forgetting his name. From Voyager.
Manu Intiraymi.
oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes. He was same year as Chase.
Funny.
Yeah.
Well, there's been a lot of old Doctor Who's and Brian and.
Well, Brian's done 3 that we've been at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they just need to update the guest roster a bit, I think, and get people from something big and current.
But I think also in terms of the entertainment, some of the cons we've gone to have had comedy from the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and in the past we've had
We've had Festival of the Spoken Nerd there before.
Festival,
yeah.
yeah. And then we had the zombie guy as well a couple of years ago.
The dark room would work there.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
it
absolutely.
You've seen that, right?
Yeah.
Or Nightmare.
Really, do tell me about it.
Nightmare would be cool. Oh, the MMORPG show would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are things like that out there
Yeah.
that you can hire.
And that'd be great as part of the Imaginarium.
But I think that that's what the Sci Fi Weekender does very well. Is a diverse program of events.
Yes.
And it does that really, really well. But I think for me, what tends to let it down sometimes is they don't have big name draws. Which I think it'd be good to get one or two. I'm not saying, pepper it with all-star people there. Just get one or two big name draws there to do, like one on each day, one on the Friday, one on the Saturday.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, hopefully we'll be back again next year doing what we do.
I want it to succeed. I want it to be the best that it can be because it was our first one and it's our first love.
Yeah.
I think we have our hearts there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first convention I ever went to. It was SFX3.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took a lot to be like, let's go brave some crowds and do something well out of my comfort zone. So yeah, I've got a massive soft spot for Sci Fi Weekender. For sure.
Cool.
I didn't see enough fans.
I actually bumped into a hell of a lot of them.
I didn't.
So good to see you all. It's interesting just to kind of, as I'm walking up to the bar, people are going, hey, look, it's the Monkey Spanner guy. And I'm like, really? Wow, okay, cool.
I was even wearing a NerdVsWorld t-shirt.
You're going to have to just wear the t-shirt next year and not a shirt over it.
It's too cold.
We just have to get you up and just stand you at the side of stage, just holding the awkward balloon. Just while we're doing the panels. Don't ever say anything, because then that way it's not a problem. You don't have to interact with anyone. Just stand there and hold the awkward balloon.
Can we get him a thermal vest and a t-shirt and an awkward balloon?
I'm definitely going to have an awkward balloon next year as part of my cosplay.
So that's just what we're going to do. We're just going to get you up, stood at the side of stage with a spotlight and an awkward balloon. And only people who've listened to this on the show will understand why you're there.
Yeah. To be fair, I next year I'm going to book the day off work before the Weekender. Because I had done a 14-hour shift on the Wednesday and then had to drive up. So I was kind of wiped out for most of the weekend, which kind of sucked. I ate far too much pizza and too much Burger King. That's all I ate.
And a giant cookie.
Yeah, that was breakfast. Yeah.
But all in all, it was another great weekend. Enjoyed it. I felt like I spent a hell of a lot more time not watching stuff this time and off doing a lot of other stuff. So,
I definitely spent less time in the main void than I usually do. I spent more time actually talking to people who I haven't spoken to for a long time. Like I spent more time with the GK, including the world's fucking scariest Ewok.
Yeah, we got pictures
like,
of that. Yeah.
It's the bad taxidermy of Ewoks.
Yeah.
It's evil.
Yeah. Well, I got a whole bunch of photos, so they'll go out accompanying this. I'll do a photo album and stick that out with this, so people can have a look and tag yourselves, do whatever you want. Pictures are all there. Take them, use them to do profile pictures, whatever.
Yeah. But if you haven't been to the Sci Fi Weekender, then you definitely need to look into getting tickets for next year.
Yeah.
Because it's a really nice event, and it's friendly. That's the one thing that I found year in, year out, is it's always seemed to be friendly. There hasn't been any real issues that I've ever come across with people being jerks.
It's on a haven site, which means that there's lots of access to different food places.
Yeah.
It's not like you're stuck in a hotel and forced to spend 20 quid on a pizza.
And it's a lot of some people go every year.
Yeah.
Go every year. So you become part of a giant family.
Nerdy community.
Yeah, a nerdy community, sort of
And
geek campers.
Yeah.
The Facebook stuff post this year has been really good, with everybody piling in with their photos and memories and saying what they were doing, and it's been a really nice community after.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So come along for your first time next year, and hopefully we'll see you.
Yeah, and keep an eye out over the next couple of weeks, because we'll put out a bunch of the interviews and stuff that we did. So the Garrett Wong interview we'll put out next week, and then a whole bunch of others we'll put out as wonky casts of our on-stage stuff.
And we have some appearances coming up soon. Details will be on the website and the Facebook page.
Yeah, we've got quite a few bits and bobs going on, because we're going to be at Wales Comic Con in a couple of weeks' time.
And then on Free Comic Book Day, we'll be doing our very first live recording in front of an audience.
Yeah, live show recording. Yeah,
Like,
because
yeah,
I mean,
live podcast.
we've recorded panels and interviews and stuff we've done on stage, but we've never done a live show.
We are getting closer to our dream of being, the UK's answer to Kevin Smith and Chris Hardwick. Slowly.
Which one's which?
I'm not entirely sure. As I said that, I wasn't clear who was who. I mean, who do you want to be?
Oh, I don't know, because
That's a tough choice. Kevin Smith or Chris Hardwick?
Because Kevin Smith's awesome, but then Chris Hardwick's awesome as well. So I don't know.
I have the beard for Kevin Smith. I guess
You do,
You do,
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not that.
Yeah,
Okay, so I think you'd have to be Kevin Smith.
fine.
All right, and I'll be Chris Hardwick. That's fine.
okay.
Okay,
Cool.
there we go. We've sorted that.
Also, we'll put it in the show notes. There is a Indiegogo campaign by Juliet Landau, Drusilla from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, about a history of vampires in fiction and in our pop culture. It's well worth checking out and backing up. I think it's into its push goals now, so it's been funded. So definitely go along and contribute where you can. There's some great benefits in there.
The cast is awesome.
Yeah,
and
it
the
is.
more people she's getting on board onto the cast, the more that they're able to sell.
Yeah, there's some
Through
really
Indiegogo.
interesting things they're giving
So-
away, like all the Ron Perlman stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want signed photos of Ron Perlman, that's where you go to get it.
Yeah.
And even down to if you're mega rich, you can go and be part of the filming, or go and turn up to the screening.
Yeah, but just like having access to the hang-withs is really cool. She just hangs out with different people and you get to just watch her just chat.
This
to people.
week has been Christian Kane.
Yeah.
Who was on Angel and
Yep.
Leverage.
Yep.
And
Good old
is now
Elliot.
on
The Librarians. Yeah, indeed.
So there you go. That is a Kickstarter that is definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, we'll stick.
Indiegogo.
Yeah,
It's
we'll stick
Indiegogo.
some links in. Yeah. But this all came about because
This all came about because I woke up one morning to find that Julian Lando was following me on Twitter, and I have never fanboyed so hard in my life.
hark at you.
Even when you were retweeted by Mr. Philly.
Nathan Fillion last year. Well, maybe it's the time of year,
It must be because
It was this
around
time
this
last
time last
year.
year I got retweeted by Neil Gaiman
Yeah.
and Amanda Palmer.
But I looked at the name. I was like, I recognise that name. I was thought I was still asleep. I thought it was my Pacer app telling me that I'd been stationary for an hour. It's time to get moving. So I looked at it and I was like, oh wow, I know who that is. I was like, I wanted to make sure that it was a genuine verified account and not something else. I was like, yes, get in. So I screenshotted it and put it all over Facebook. I was so happy. Just so happy.
Does it make up for the fact that Garrett Wong's following me and Emma and not you?
Yeah, I was sat at the table as well. I was sat next to Garrett Wong, and he followed you, and he followed Emma, and I was waiting for my phone to
Then he
beep for the
followed my
notification.
next door neighbours.
Yeah. I was sat there going, come on, any minute now. Just looking at him expectantly. Just like tears pooling in the bottom of my eyes. Like,
He just knew you were going to abandon him and just go home, that's why.
I was just like, come on, man, I'm right here. I'm right here, Garrett. Just follow me, please. But no, he didn't. But fuck him. Juliet Lando did, so it's fine.
And on that note,
Hashtag not bitter.
I'm sure he will follow you when we put the episodes out.
Just ask him. Just say, do you mind just following this guy? Cool. Yes. Anyway, I think that's about
I think
enough.
that's pretty much it for now.
Yeah.
So just keep an eye out for stuff. There's loads of stuff. We're going to be at loads of stuff. So come and say hey.
I feel like I've been wrecked quite enough by you two for one night. Sweet. Well, that's all for this show then. I've been Brendan.
I've been Spindles.
I've been Emma.
And until next time, take care and be excellent to each other.